Take out your law books. We're going to go ahead and get started pretty soon. Give me a couple minutes here. Let's go ahead and start getting ready, you guys. We're going to answer a lot of questions. We're going to try to dedicate some time mostly here to the insurances. Got a couple questions about the insurances, the bonds. Wanted to clear up quite a bit of misunderstandings that I got, this week. So definitely wanted to go over that, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Perfect. All right. Okay. So as always, you guys, make sure to take out your law book. Try to follow along with everything that we cover here. We're going to jump through different parts of the book this week just because there's a lot of questions regarding the bonds and the insurances that I want to clear up. I got at least, I think it was like 7-8 questions, you guys. 7-8 questions from, kind of confusing bonds with insurances and vice versa. So I wanted to go ahead and clear that up for you guys now. We're going to go ahead and get started on chapter 1, page 12. But like I said, you guys, we're going to be jumping through different parts of this book just because there's questions about bonds and insurances, and it covers different chapters, so we got to be on it. All right, so let's go ahead and go to, chapter 1, page 11, sorry. We're going to go ahead and start with the contractor's bond. Of course, the key word here is bond, you guys. Bond, not insurance. Remember that the contractor's bond is also known as the license bond. People call it an insurance, but it really isn't an insurance. An insurance is like general liability or workers' compensation. Insurance is there in case something happens, which is not really the bond. The bond is a little bit different. The bond is there to really ensure that you don't break the law, you don't commit any type of fraud, or you don't steal from your employees and or clients. So the bond right now in California has to cover you up to $25,000, okay? This is a $25,000 safety net, okay? This is a $25,000 safety net. That's awesome. You guys just purchased the course. Not a problem. We're barely beginning. If you're barely beginning, you should be getting access to the platform where you have access to all the classes. This is just a Q&A where I cover different parts of the book depending on the students' questions for the week. So you will get access to that individual platform where you see all the classes and you can take your time going through them. Okay. Now, this is on chapter 1, page 12, where it says the contractor's bond. What is a bond? What you guys have to know is don't confuse it for an insurance. An insurance is definitely different. You want to think, when they say insurance, you kind of want to think about general liability, workers' compensation, commercial auto. That is what an insurance is. A bond is a little bit different. A bond is mostly there to protect your clients, to protect your employees, to ensure that, let's just say you break the law, you commit some sort of fraud, you don't want to pay your employees, you steal from your clients, they can actually use this $25,000. Now, you're not going to pay $25,000. That's the thing. You're not paying $25,000, although it covers you up to $25,000. What you guys are paying is anywhere from $250 to $400, maybe up to $450 once a year. Okay? So this is not like, oh, one of my employees got hurt, I'm going to use the bond. That's not how it works. It's not like, oh, I committed an error or I damaged the property, I'm going to use the bond. No, those are not situations where you'll use the bond. The bond will be used if you abandon the job. You literally just disappear. You ghost the client. That's when this bond will be used. Let's say you committed some sort of damage on the property and you don't want to fix it. You're ignoring it. You're not answering questions. You don't have proof. You don't have evidence that you didn't commit this. You're not pushing back against it. You're kind of just ignoring the client. That's when this bond can be used. Remember, at any point, you guys, at any point that you guys get a message from the bonding company. Okay, at any point that you guys get a message from the bonding company, you want to respond. Always, you definitely want to respond. Because if you don't respond, you're gonna look guilty, and that's what you don't want to do. You want to make sure that you respond anytime that they send you a packet. They send you a packet. Hey, this is what this client is claiming. What is your response to this? Okay. So let's say that you do damage the property in some sort of way. Okay. What insurance can you use? That is when you use general liability insurance. Let's say one of your employees get injured. What insurance do you use? That's when you use workers' comp. The contractor's bond is a safety net for your clients, for your employees. This is what it's going to run you guys, $250 to about $450 once a year. Now, if you're telling me, Luis, I purchased the bond for a year, already had my license. The following year, it went up to $800 or $600 or $1,000 or more than that. Guys, feel free to price shop, right? When you start hopping around for the bonds, every year they normally have like a welcome bonus or a welcome credit, and you're going to be paying this every single time, okay? But you just have to inquire. You inquire with different companies, and you're going to be able to get better pricing, okay? All right, guys, so the bond on page 12, when do you purchase this? You purchase it after. Keyword is after. After you pass the exams. Do not purchase it before, okay? There's a lot of contractors that jump the gun. They purchase this bond before they pass the exams. Remember, if you purchase it prior, the day that you purchase it, your bond is active. So if it takes you an additional month, 2 months, 6 months to pass your exams, you just lost 6 months of time, okay? So you don't want to purchase this bond until after you pass the exams, you guys. Make sure that you do that after you pass the exams. What else is something to keep in mind regarding the bond? Every license requires it. Every active license requires it. So there's a lot of misinformation sometimes, right? We think that, oh, this is a big company. They have different rules, different requirements. Sometimes you talk to your friends or your buddies or your boss or whatever. Like, I don't have any of that. My license is active. Guys, you have to be careful on the information that you're getting from people. Sometimes they don't mean to, but they're half-truths. Or sometimes they just don't understand what they had to do to get that license out. Every construction business in California, at least, not talking about other states, every construction business in California, if they have an active license, right, because there is an inactive or an expired license. So if their license is active, they need the bond active at all times, okay? If you guys have your license active, you need it active, your contractor's bond at all times. Israel, how you doing, man? It's been a minute. How you doing? How you doing, Israel? Hope you're doing well. So here's the other thing with the bond. If at any point, you guys, if at any point they suspend your bond, your license will become suspended as well. So keep that in mind. If at any point they suspend your contractor's bond, your license will become suspended as well. So my best recommendation, you guys, is purchase it for 2 years. That way you guys know at the same time you have to renew your contractor's license, you would also have to renew your contractor's bond, okay? Or also your license bond, whichever one. You also have to know the two names of it, right? This is called the contractor's bond, the license bond. You can switch those terms out. They mean the same thing. You want to purchase it for 2 years. Why? Your license renews every 2 years. Okay? You have to renew your license every 2 years. So most of you guys will get that option, whether to renew it every year or 2 years. Some of you will get a 3-year option. Not everybody does, but some of you will. I would choose the 2 years just because it kind of keeps you in line when you have to renew things. If you renew your license every 2 years, you should automatically know you also have to renew your bond every 2 years. Okay? So where can you guys find this information? It's on chapter 1, page 11 and 12. That is where they discuss the contractor's bond, the license bond. Keep in mind, the bond is continued on to the next page, okay? The bond is continued on to the next page as well, so you will get more information there, okay? You want to renew your bond. Renew your bond at least 30 days before it expires. Renew bond 30 days before expiration. Anything with the state, you want to try to renew it between 30 and 90 days. Okay, this bond in particular is 30 days. Okay, this bond in particular is 30 days. All right, guys. So from here, we're going to go ahead and jump forward to page. We're going to go to chapter 5. And we're going to discuss general liability. Show you guys the page number in just a second. It's page 12 too. Oh, page 13, sorry. Chapter 5, page 13. That's where we're going to be at. Chapter 5, page 13. Make sure you guys are following us here on YouTube. Israel, that's good, man. Aren't we all, right? Aren't we all hanging in there? Chapter 5, page 13. We're going to go ahead and discuss general liability. So remember, a bond is one thing, right? We'll discuss some other bonds, but I'm going to give you guys an example of a bond, then an insurance. Okay, so that's the bond. Now we're going to discuss commercial general liability. Just because it says commercial does not mean it is only for commercial works. Yes, I have gotten that multiple times. Commercial general liability, you have to know the abbreviation as well, which is CGL insurance. Most of these policies will cover you up to $1 million. Most insurance agents will actually quote you up to $2 million. Okay? So your standard general liability policy covers $1 million, right? But most insurance agents will quote you with already $2 million, okay? Now, what type of situations will you use general liability for, okay? General liability normally covers when you the most common thing in construction, at least, is when you commit some sort of damage on the customer's property, right? Maybe, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 worth of damage. Maybe you don't have that money cash flow in the bank, so you have to submit a claim with your insurance, which it's common. It happens all the time. But yeah, these are your property damages, property damage claims. Which is the most common thing contractors tend to use it for, right? Because if you're on chapter 1, page 13, they will tell you different types of, other reasons why they can use it. But the more common reason here in construction is, your property damage claims. In certain cases, they can cover medical costs. Let's say the client walks into the property, right? Ignores all the signs, ignores all the warning signs. Maybe you didn't have those warning signs up. They walk into the property where you're doing the project. They slip, they fall, they hurt themselves. That is where medical costs can be covered as well. The other thing too is your umbrella policy can be added. This is for higher risk trades or projects. And always read your policy. Always read your policy. What is the most common thing that I see right now? There's a lot. There's a lot of situations, right? So a lot of people tell me, Luis, I'm an unlicensed contractor, right? They'll tell me, I'm an unlicensed contractor and I still got general liability insurance. How is that? I'm like, well, read your policy. If you read your policy, most of the times, unlicensed contractors are quoted as handyman contractors, which means the policy literally states it would only cover projects up to 1,000 that includes the labor and materials. So if they're on a $10,000 project, that liability insurance is not going to cover them. If they're on a $50,000 project, that liability insurance is not going to cover them, right? So is there Mickey Mouse versions of the general liability where it's like, oh, well, I'm unlicensed, but I still have a general liability policy? Well, yeah, because they quoted you not as a licensed contractor, but they quoted you as a handyman, or they quoted you as like landscape maintenance that necessarily doesn't require a contractor's license. But if you read your policy, it'll tell you everything that it won't cover. So you have to be really careful. You know, there's too many people that have a false idea of what their insurance will cover them, and then, you know, something happens and they want to use their policy and they're not covered, right? Obviously, if you have your license, then you're looking at, yes, $1 million up to $2 million coverage. Of course, if you have your license, you can add your umbrella policy. So I was talking about specifically unlicensed contractors in that example. Once you have a license, then yes, you're looking at this type of coverage, but you still want to read your policy. There's situations where it won't cover, right? So if you work a lot at night, for example, like the people in the freeways, sometimes they're working at night. My general engineering contractors that are working in the freeway at night, for example, they would have to make sure that their policy covers nighttime work, right? If you're normally when you're working, let's say if it's raining, that's not something that you shy away from. If it's raining, it doesn't matter, you're still working. You gotta make sure that your policy covers different type of weather, because most policies will have, ways to protect themselves. Like, hey, well, we didn't cover extreme weather or different changes of weather, and now you're not covered. So you always have to read your policy. Always read your policy. Okay, so that's general liability. So we discussed a bond. We discussed general liability. Okay, normally used your standard property damage claims, whether it's you or your employees. Medical costs, let's say the client walks into your project, gets injured. That's another example where you can use commercial general liability. Let's talk about a different bond now. So now we're going to jump back to chapter 3. Let's go to chapter 3, page, I want to say it's page 25 or 7. Give me 1 second. Page 27. Chapter 3, page 27. We're going to discuss the payment bond very quickly. Keyword here, again, is bond, you guys. It's another bond. It is not an insurance. What does it cover? It covers payment for labor and materials. Labor and materials. If you read that, you're like, well, what does that mean? Right? Because there's a lot of, the first time I read it, it wasn't necessarily 100% clear. But if you read it, what does labor mean? It covers payment for labor. Labor in this context is subcontractors. In this context, labor would be your subcontractors. Materials would be your suppliers. It does not cover employees on payroll, okay? It covers your subcontractors. So for those of you that, like, say for example, you kind of jump to the end of the book, right? Those yellow pages. When people say, well, I thought it covers all labor. No, it only covers your subcontractors. It wouldn't actually cover your payroll. Well, I thought it covered materials, like if the client purchased the materials or I purchased the materials. No, it only covers suppliers that supplied the material. So if you go to Home Depot, for example, that wouldn't be covered. It would cover suppliers that provided the materials on that project. Is this a very common bond? Yes, but not in all projects, okay? Most residential projects, most of them will not require a payment bond. Because I have too many people, once they get to this chapter, once they get to page 27, they're like, Luis, I have to get all these bonds for every single project. I'm like, no, of course not. It's only certain type of projects when they ask you to do it. So for example, if it's private works, what is private works? Private works is residential and commercial. Bigger commercial jobs, bigger commercial, if it's a big commercial job, they might ask you to do it, okay? And that's not out of the ordinary, okay? But your standard residential projects, it's not common there at all, very uncommon. But if it's public works, $25,000 or more, it's mandatory. Of course, it's mandatory if there's subcontractors involved, subs or suppliers involved. Obviously, if there's no subs, no suppliers, you don't have to take it out. But if there is subs and suppliers in that project, then you do have to take it out. Once getting my General B license, I plan to sub everything out and just be on-site superintendent. Do I need workers' comp? For all of 2027, you would not need it. Sorry, 2026. Yeah, for all of 2027, you don't need it. It's starting 2028, I believe you need it. The other thing to kind of keep in mind, though, is if you are planning on doing that, of course, all of your subcontractors have to be licensed. You can't hire unlicensed subcontractors. That's the thing, okay? If you're hiring unlicensed subcontractors, they're basically just your responsibility, and you would need workers' comp. So be careful on that. Give me 1 second, you guys. Yeah. Okay. So if you are, so just kind of keep that in mind. You know, most people say, well, I don't have a license. I'm just a subcontractor. No, subcontractors have licenses. They have registered companies. So if you are just going to sub everything out, you don't need workers' comp for all of 2027. But come 2028, yes. So remember, you guys, that is something regarding workers' comp. Chapter 4, page 20, I believe it is. We'll cover that really quickly. Chapter 4, page 26. That's the payment bond. Workers' compensation. This is what makes our payroll super expensive, right? Workers' comp is a requirement. It gives medical coverage to employees who become ill or hurt, and it's work related. So workers' comp, what is the point of it? On chapter 4, page 26, it gives medical coverage to employees who become ill, they become sick, or hurt, like they got in an accident, and it's work related, right? It's not, they can't get hurt at home because they were doing something and now they want to use workers' comp. Is there a lot of workers' compensation fraud? Definitely, but that is what it's used for. Now, January 1st, 2028, all contractors will require a policy even if they have 0 employees. So for those of you guys that are students with me here at Blue Collar Licensing, You guys already knew this, right? In chapter 4, we cover that. What do I tell you guys in chapter 4? Hey, they passed the law that said you needed workers' compensation starting 2026. But when you guys got the updated classes, what did it say? They extended that to 2028. So a lot of contractors still think, hey, this year we needed workers' comp. No, they extended the law all the way to 2028. So it's not that much time left. It's about a year and a half, right? But even if you have 0 employees, you are going to need a policy, okay? You are going to need a policy. Is it important to remember all glossary terms on chapter 1 for the test? Not necessarily remember every single term. Chapter 1 probably has about 12% in it. Everything I cover in the class is what you want to remember. I would say if there's any chapter where you should remember the glossary terms, is chapter 5 and 6. Because those terms are pretty much everything we cover in the class. But other than that, everything I cover in the classes is the most important. And as long as you're reading the chapter, you're going to understand it, right? As long, there's no shortcuts. As long as you guys don't try to remember questions and answers, you're going to be okay. Everything else, just read, watch the class, read to understand, not to get through it, and you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. I'm taking my test next Friday. Any tips? If you guys are really close to your exam, like let's say in the next week or 2 weeks, what I would do if I were you guys is I would study at least an hour a day. If you're like really close to it, study an hour a day, try to limit distractions, and read a chapter a day. Actually read it. Don't read to get through it, read to understand it. What does that mean? You're absorbing the information. You're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about estimates. You're not thinking about, where you're going to eat later, where you're going out later. No, just sit down and try to absorb the information. If you do that, if you actually read it, you're going to be surprised when you go to the exam and you take your time in the exam, 3.5 hours per exam, that you're actually going to be able to understand the questions because their job is to try to confuse you. So if you slow down, you're able to study for a couple weeks really, really well. You're going to be able to understand what they're asking you and not just trying to get through it. Too many people try to find shortcuts, try to find, just study questions and answers. You're going to fail that way. But if you really try to understand it, you're going to be good. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's our Q&A in English. We're going to do another 30 minutes in Spanish, but I appreciate all you guys' questions. Remember, you guys, most of the time, the Q&As are on Wednesday, 5:30 to 6 in English. If you guys have questions that I was unable to get to, there's 2 ways that you can contact us. Go ahead and call the office. Hey, Luis, I had questions about my trade book, questions about my, my corporation or registering my business. I haven't received my book yet. How long will it take to get my book? I have questions about registering for the course. I want to purchase the course, anything like that. Go ahead and call this number. This is the office where we're currently at. We're here until 7 o'clock, you guys. What I would do if I were you guys is I wouldn't waste another day. It's easy to kind of get lost in between working and family time. So, a lot of times people, put this on the back burner. If you're watching this right now, don't put it on the back burner. Go ahead and call this number, 951-742-8181. If your job, if you have a goal like, hey, I want to get licensed as soon as possible, don't wait. Call that number right there, 951-742-8181. We're going to put you guys on track to get it as soon as possible. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, if you haven't sent out the application to the state yet, you're always at least 2 months before taking your exams, okay? So from the day you send your application to the state, from the day that you send out your app, right? It's your application to the CSLB. You're 2 months away, minimum, sometimes longer, 2 months away from taking your exam. So let's just say you just started, right? You haven't done anything. You haven't registered your business. You haven't submitted your application to the state. We are right now, August 5th, right? Okay, if you were to submit your application today, right? Today, you certified, mailed it to the state, you're testing August, September, maybe early November. anywhere from the 1st to the 15th. So this is, no one's rushing you guys. This is just to give you an idea, okay? This is just to give you an idea. If you were to submit your application today, right, certified, mailed it to the state, you're testing somewhere around this time, anywhere from the 1st of November to the 15th, okay? It is not to rush. It is so you guys have an idea. So you guys know, okay, well, my goal is to get, licensed by the new year. Perfect. Like, this is just so you guys have an idea, right? Reading the book and watching the classes. Reading the book and watching the classes. That's what you want to do. If you do that, you're going to pass. All right? All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for your guys' questions. Like I said, if you guys have additional questions I was unable to touch on, go ahead and call that number there, 951-742-8181. We are here until 7 o'clock tonight, so don't wait on it. Don't put it on the back burner. Let's start it today. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Spanish now. Amigos, ¿qué tal? Muchas gracias por estar aquí a este otro segmento de preguntas y respuestas. La verdad que tenemos bastantes temas en que hablar. La próxima semana sí vamos a repasar un poco más del capítulo 5. Esa semana los vamos a enfocar en diferentes partes de los capítulos simplemente porque había muchas preguntas de seguros y fianzas esta semana, pero de seguro. La próxima semana vamos a repasar más el capítulo 5. Esta semana vamos a brincar un poco porque tuvimos muchas preguntas de los seguros y las fianzas esta semana. Solo vamos a repasar. En caso que tienen preguntas de su aplicación o sus libros o algo así de su curso, amigos, pueden llamar aquí a ese número 951-742-8181. Aquí está el número otra vez, 951-742-8181. Recuerden, amigos, que si todavía no han mandado la solicitud al Estado, siempre están mínimo 2 meses para tomar el examen. So, por ejemplo, si hoy mismo mandaron su aplicación al Estado, correo certificado, no están tomando el examen hasta el día 1 al día 15 de noviembre, ¿ok? Día 1 al día 15 de noviembre. So, siempre recuerden eso, porque cuando llamamos, hey, hay que mandar la solicitud, pues ahorita no me siento listo, se entiende, pero recuerdan que no van a tomar el examen de un día a otro. Es mínimo 2 meses, a veces un poco más de tiempo, dependiendo qué tan ocupado está el Estado. So, aquí por todos los estudiantes que están viendo por YouTube, ¿ok? Aquí en el canal de YouTube, pueden hacer sus preguntas, vamos a contestar lo más que se pueda, pero recibimos más de 15 preguntas por correo electrónico y la mayoría de esas preguntas eran de los seguros y las fianzas. So, quería dar un poco de atención a esos temas. La próxima semana de seguro vamos a repasar el capítulo 5, ciertas partes del 5, pero esta semana vamos a repasar los temas de las fianzas y de los seguros, ¿ok? So, hay que muy rápido llegar al capítulo 1, página 11. Capítulo 1, página 11, y van a ver la fianza del contratista, ¿ok? Muchos a veces lo piensan como un seguro, pero la fianza del contratista no es un seguro, es una fianza. Un seguro, cuando el Estado pide un seguro, piensa general liability, piensa workers' comp, piensa auto comercial. Pero las fianzas realmente no son seguros. So, vamos a poner fianza de contratista, ¿ok? O también pueden poner fianza de la licencia. Esta fianza te tiene que cubrir $25,000, ¿ok? Regularmente aquí es donde sale el mito, ¿verdad? Dicen, pues yo tengo un seguro de $50,000 o para sacar la licencia tienes que tener $20,000 o $30,000 o $100,000 aguardados. Y pues obviamente nosotros sabemos que eso es una mentira. De lo que ellos están explicando es una fianza. Y esta fianza sí te tiene que cubrir hasta $25,000. Eso no significa que vas a pagar $25,000. Esto es un pago de $250 a $400 una vez al año, solamente una vez al año. No se paga por mes, se paga una vez al año. Lo puedes comprar en años. So, para la mayoría de ustedes se lo van a ofrecer por 1 año o 2 años. Algunos de ustedes van a calificar hasta 3 años. So, es decir, el precio que te dan te cubre hasta 3 años. El precio que te dan te cubre los 2 años, el año, ¿ok? Ahora, esta fianza de la licencia, la fianza del contratista, se requiere para activar la licencia. Se requiere para activar cada vez que un estudiante pasa los exámenes y agarran esa información del Estado. ¿Por qué tengo que comprar la fianza? Les digo, abre tu libro, capítulo 1, página 11, lo repasamos. Se requiere esta fianza para activar tu licencia. Si no compras la fianza, no te van a activar la licencia. Así de fácil. La fianza que no se compra por 5 años. No ha visto hasta 5 años, ha visto 1, 2 y 3 años. La fianza del contratista, la fianza de la licencia se compra en 1, 2 o 3 años. La verdad no ha visto 5 años. Ahora, se requiere para activar la licencia. ¿Qué más? ¿Qué cubre? Ok, ¿qué es la diferencia aquí entre General Liability y esta fianza? General Liability, que es el seguro de liability, muchos de ustedes ya la conocen, y el Workers' Compensation. Esta fianza no se usa cuando dañan la propiedad del cliente. Si es un accidente, ustedes o tus empleados cometieron un error, dañaron la propiedad del cliente, esto no es un ejemplo donde se usa esta fianza. Esta fianza se usa solamente cuando tú no quieres seguir la ley, dañas la propiedad y no lo quieres arreglar. O sea, no estás ignorando a los clientes, no le estás contestando las llamadas, etc. O sea, no lo vas a arreglar. O no quieres pagar a tus empleados. Si llegó el tiempo de la nómina y no quieres pagar a tus empleados, esos son ejemplos donde pueden utilizar esta fianza. So, si un empleado dice, pues no me pagó mi nómina, ¿ok? No me pagó mi nómina. Eso es un ejemplo donde pueden utilizar esta fianza. Hacen un reclamo contra esta fianza. No, es que Luis, siempre te van a llegar esos correos que te van a solicitar. A lo mejor te dan un precio de $50, pero ya cuando ponen tu número de aplicación y te llaman y piden toda tu información, ahí es cuando te dicen, ok, calificaste por 1 año o 2 años y es 300, 350, 400. Eso nomás es como un enganche para agarrar tu atención, pero no es así. Ok, se requiere para activar la licencia. ¿En qué situaciones se usa esa fianza? Cuando no pagas a tus empleados, era tiempo de su nómina, no quisiste pagar, robas a los subcontratistas o los suppliers, era tiempo para su pago, no los quieres pagar, dañas la propiedad de una forma, no lo quieres arreglar. Esos son ejemplos donde el cliente, tus empleados, los subcontratistas, los suppliers, pueden someter un reclamo contra tu fianza, ¿ok? Pero esta fianza se usa simplemente cuando no sigues las leyes, no quieres arreglar los problemas, no quieres encontrar una solución. Es cuando van a utilizar la fianza del contratista, la fianza de la licencia. Se requiere para activar la licencia. ¿Cuándo se compra? Después que pasas los exámenes, no antes, después, ¿ok? Si tú compras la fianza en este momento y todavía no pasas el examen, te toca otro mes, otros 3 meses, otros 6 meses para pasar el examen, pues ya perdiste, ¿qué? 3 meses, ya perdiste 6 meses. Se compra esta fianza hasta después que pasas los exámenes, ¿ok? Ahora, de aquí vamos a brincar al capítulo 3 para darte otro ejemplo de otra fianza y luego llegamos al 4 para hablar del Workers' Comp. Pero hay que llegar al capítulo 3, la página 27, porque te voy a dar otro ejemplo de otra fianza que es totalmente diferente. Recuerdan, en esta fianza, todas las licencias, todas las compañías requieren esta fianza. Recuerden, amigos, que hay muchos dichos en la industria. Un amigo me dijo que no lo ocupo. Mi patrón dice que él no lo tiene, que nunca lo ha comprado. Son dichos, amigos, son mitos. Todas las licencias, no importa si eres general contractor, si eres pintor, si eres framer, no importa la entidad que tienes. Puedes tener un solo owner, una corporación, una LLC, no importa. Todas las licencias de contratistas, todas las compañías requieren esta fianza, ¿ok? La otra cosa sobre esta fianza, en el momento que te suspenden esta fianza, ponle que eso es lo más común, no lo renovaste con tiempo, te suspendieron la fianza, te suspenden la licencia. Esta fianza tiene que estar activa por todo el tiempo que tu licencia está activa, ¿ok? Tu fianza siempre tiene que estar activa si quieres que tu licencia esté activa. En el momento que se suspende esta fianza, también se suspende la licencia. ¿Ok? Ahora sí, hay que llegar al capítulo 3, la página 27. Vas a ver la diferencia entre las fianzas. Esta fianza todos lo requieren. Todas las compañías lo requieren. Solamente se paga una vez al año y se requiere para activar la licencia. Esta otra fianza es la fianza de pago. Aquí estamos en el capítulo 3, la página 27. Capítulo 3, página 27. Cubre el pago a la mano de obra y los materiales. ¿Dónde se confunden los contratistas? Pues dicen, ok, ¿quién es la mano de obra? Mis empleados. No, no están hablando de tus empleados. Los materiales, es otra garantía para mis materiales. Si yo voy a Home Depot o voy aquí a esta tienda chiquita, ¿me cubre los materiales también? No. Cuando estamos en el capítulo 3, la página 27, donde dice las fianzas de pago, ¿verdad? ¿Recuerdan en esto? Cuando estamos en el capítulo 3, la página 27, y hablan de la fianza de pago, ¿qué significa mano de obra en este contexto? ¿Ok? ¿Qué significa mano de obra en este contexto? Mano de obra en este contexto es subcontratista. Los materiales en este contexto es que suppliers. No hablan de los materiales del Home Depot, no hablan de los materiales de una tienda aquí, no. Hablan de un supplier. Mano de obra no es tus empleados en este contexto, es un subcontratista. Ahora, ¿cuándo se requiere esta fianza? ¿Cuándo lo tienes que obtener? Esta fianza no es común en trabajo residencial. Tus trabajos residenciales comunes, esta fianza nunca la van a ver. Es posible que te lo piden, pero no es común. ¿Ok? No es algo que se tienen que estresar. Luis, ¿tengo que sacar esta fianza cada vez que hago un proyecto? No. En trabajo residencial es opcional. Si el cliente lo pide y tú quieres el contrato, lo tienes que obtener. Si el cliente lo pide, tú quieres el contrato, ¿ok? Lo tienes que obtener. Pero recuerdan, para el fianza de pago, es ¿a quién se lo piden? Si es un trabajo residencial o público, opcional, el contratista principal lo tiene que obtener. Si va a tener subcontratistas, la fianza de pago cubre subcontratistas y suppliers. Obviamente, si no hay subcontratistas en ese contrato, pues no te lo van a pedir porque no hay subcontratistas. Si va a haber subcontratista en el contrato, pues es posible que el cliente lo pide. Les doy un ejemplo en unos momentos. Trabajo residencial es opcional. ¿Quién lo tiene que sacar? Pues el contratista principal. En trabajo público, más de $25,000 es obligatorio. Y todavía es el prime, el contratista principal que lo tiene que sacar. Trabajo residencial, opcional. Quien lo saca, el prime contractor, el contratista principal. Trabajo público, más de $25,000 es obligatorio. Quien lo saca es el prime contractor. Por ejemplo, ¿cómo se saca esta fianza? Pues obviamente el cliente contrata a un contratista principal que se llama el prime. El contratista principal, si requiere un subcontratista, contrata al subcontratista. Si el subcontratista dice, el contrato es de $80,000, ¿ok? Y el cliente le pide al prime una fianza de pago, la fianza de pago tiene que cubrir los $80,000. ¿El contratista principal tiene que pagar $80,000? Claro que no. No tiene que pagar $80,000. Regularmente sale 1 a 2% del valor de ese contrato. El contratista principal tiene que pagar 1 a 2% de los $80,000, los $50,000, los $100,000. Depende en el precio del contrato. En este ejemplo, el precio del contrato es 80, pero este número puede cambiar. Este número puede ser 30, puede ser 10. O sea, cambia. ¿Cambia a base de qué? El proyecto. A veces va a tener subcontratistas que le cobran 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. Si el cliente pide la fianza de pago, esta fianza solamente tiene que cubrir el valor del contrato entre el contratista principal al subcontratista. ¿Por qué? Que es el punto de la fianza del pago. Recuerdan, el punto de esta fianza, el punto de la fianza de pago era ¿qué? Cubrir el pago de la mano de obra, cubrir el pago de los materiales. ¿Dónde cometen los errores los contratistas? Están mixteando la información de la fianza del contratista, la fianza de la licencia. Lo están confundiendo con esta información. Confunden la información que aplica de la fianza de la licencia con la fianza de pago. Totalmente diferente. Recuerdan, esta fianza de pago es por proyecto. Hay muchos proyectos que no te lo van a pedir. Cierto, sí. Muchos proyectos nunca te piden esta fianza. Algunos sí. Pero la fianza de contratista, todas las licencias, todas las compañías lo requieren. ¿Sí me dejo entender? En la fianza de contratista, la fianza de la licencia que repasamos, capítulo 1, página 12, todas las licencias, todas las compañías lo requieren en todos momentos. Pero la fianza de pago depende. Hay muchos proyectos que no lo piden, algunos sí. ¿Qué cubre? ¿Qué es el punto de esta fianza? Cubre el pago de mano de obra. Cubre el pago de los materiales. ¿En qué contexto? Si tienes suppliers, si tienes subcontratistas. No cubre el dinero de tus empleados. No cubre los materiales del Home Depot. Ok, esa era otra fianza. Ahora hay que dar ejemplos de los seguros. Hay que llegar al capítulo 4, la página 26. Estas dos eran fianzas. Ok, ¿cuándo se usa esta fianza? En caso que el contratista principal no quiere pagar, pues el dinero ya está garantizado. Si el prime, por X razón, no quiere pagar al subcontratista, esta fianza garantiza el dinero al subcontratista. Eso es diferente al seguro. En el capítulo 4, página 26, hay que hablar del Workers' Compensation. El Workers' Comp son beneficios médicos. Si un empleado se lastima o se enferma y está relacionado al trabajo que están haciendo, o sea, se metieron en un accidente y estaban trabajando. Estaba relacionado al accidente en el trabajo. Se enfermaron en el trabajo. El Workers' Comp les da beneficios médicos instante. ¿Ok? La mayoría del tiempo, ¿ok?, solamente se requiere esta póliza si tienes uno o más empleados. La mayoría del tiempo, compañías requieren el Workers' Comp cuando tienen uno o más empleados. Pero sabemos que hay ciertas licencias que lo requieren aunque no tengan empleados. Como la licencia C8 de concreto, la C20 de HVAC, la C49 de árboles, la C39 de roofing, la C22 de asbestos. Estas licencias, aunque no tengas empleados, requieres una póliza. ¿Ok? Saludos Israel, gracias amigo. Estas licencias, aunque no tengas empleados, requieres una póliza de Workers' Comp. El Estado dice, sería imposible que el contratista haga el trabajo todo solo. Tienes que tener una póliza. Y pues obviamente hay muchos contratistas que todavía no tienen esta información. Mis estudiantes aquí de Blue Collar lo tenían desde hace mucho tiempo, desde cuando extendieron la ley. Antes era 2026, pero lo extendieron al año 2028. En el año 2028, todas las compañías, todas las licencias requieren Workers' Comp. Aunque no tengan empleados, ¿ok? En el año 2028, todas las compañías, todas las licencias, capítulo 4, página 26, amigo. Capítulo 4, página 26. ¿Ok? En el año 2028, la van a requerir. Saludos, Enio, ¿qué tal, amigo? Mucho tiempo sin la licencia y ya la tienes. ¿Cómo te sientes? Capítulo 4, página 26. Recuerdan, hagan esta nota. Para el año 2028, todas las compañías, todas las licencias requieren el Workers' Comp, ¿ok? Hay muchos que siempre tratan de, pero si yo nomás hago esto, no lo requiero. Yo nomás hago pintura, no lo requiero. Yo nomás hago landscape y no lo requiero. Amigos, con esta ley ya cambió todo. Ellos saben que a lo mínimo, aunque no tienes empleados, te pueden pedir una póliza de Workers' Comp. So, si algunos todavía están arriesgándolo sin la licencia, el Workers' Comp es peor. ¿Por qué Workers' Comp es peor? Porque si tú vas a la página 28, vayan a la página 29. Y eso sí es cierto. En la página 29, primer párrafo, si te agarran trabajando sin una póliza, te pueden multar y la multa es mínimo $10,000. Una cosa es no tener la licencia, que a veces las multas son de 1,000 hasta 5,000 lo máximo. Pero si te agarran trabajando sin una póliza de Workers' Comp, la multa mínima es $10,000. So, amigos, la verdad les recomiendo que no la arriesguen. Saquen su licencia, consiguen una póliza cuando pueden. Tenemos un año y medio para sacar esta póliza. Porque ustedes saben, si se esperan hasta el último momento, en el 28, va a tardar meses para recibir una póliza. Saquen su licencia lo más rápido posible y ya van a tener su póliza lista para ese tiempo. ¿Ok? Eso es el Workers' Compensation. Por favor, hagan esa nota sobre el Workers' Comp. Es mucho lo que es las diferencias entre los bonds y las fianzas. La próxima semana, amigos, vamos a repasar un poco más de las entidades, que es el capítulo 5 y unos términos principales. Recibo muchas preguntas por correo electrónico de los estudiantes. La mayoría eran de las fianzas y el Workers' Compensation. So, si quieren asegurar que contestamos sus preguntas aquí en este en vivo, trato lo posible para contestar todo aquí en el chat de YouTube. Pero también me pueden mandar un email y les contesto sus preguntas allí. Además recuerdan, es Luis, mi nombre, @ el nombre de la compañía, Blue Collar Licensing. Y ya les contesto su pregunta directamente. Ok, mándame un email. Luis, tengo esta pregunta, me la puedes contestar. Fácil. Luis, @ bluecollarlicensing.com. Ahí les puedo contestar su pregunta. Y recuerdan, antes que me vaya, por favor, recuerdan que sábado, día 22 de agosto, tenemos el seminario en San Diego. El seminario es gratis, amigos. Pueden pasar a conocerme, a conocer el Chico Reese, ahí también va a estar. Repasamos cómo obtener la licencia de contratista. Para ustedes que ya tienen su curso, no hay problema. Pueden llegar al próximo segmento de contratos de construcción. Ahí repasamos las cláusulas obligatorias que tienen que estar en tus contratos residenciales, comerciales y de subcontratistas, cosas que no están en este libro de leyes, que aplican en la vida real. Repasamos en este segmento. También va a haber un agente de marketing que repasa los sitios web, los logos, y también un agente de seguros. ¿Ok? Amigos, este seminario es totalmente gratis. Si gustan pasar, mándenme un texto aquí a 909-835-9890. Van a poner Seminario San Diego, ¿ok? Manden Seminario San Diego. Allí vamos a repasar esa información. Lo que es PACE lo repasamos después del capítulo 6. So, vamos a hacer el 5 la próxima semana, luego el 6 y luego repasamos el PACE. Pero sí, amigos, si quieren llegar aquí al seminario, sábado, día 22 de agosto, es gratis la información. Pueden pasar, mándenme un texto aquí a este número, 909-835-9890. Mándenme un texto, Luis, seminario San Diego, con mucho gusto. Ahí le podemos ayudar con más información. Saludos a todos, amigos. La próxima semana repasamos lo que es el capítulo 5, las diferentes entidades, la información del balance sheet, el balance general, el P&L. Vamos a repasar muchos términos de cuentas. So, pongan atención. La próxima semana, capítulo 5, luego el 6, luego repasamos un poco más aquí como la información del PACE.